Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, let's get this chapter finished, and then we'll start on the chapter 9, which is the looks in detail at the fluid situation.
We've never missed class.
Excellent.
You're here to learn. Go on.
All right, so vitamins. We've looked at carbohydrates, we've looked at fats, we've looked at proteins. The next nutrition group is vitamins, and we have two main divisions under vitamins: fat soluble and water soluble, and they are exactly what they say they are. All right. A, D, E, and K are fat soluble, so that means that we're able to store them within our fat cells, and that if we take in too much, that can be toxic. It has to be a lot, all right? But I have seen individuals with anorexia who will unleash carrots and their fingers actually turn orange. The palms of their hands and their fingers turn orange because the vitamin A has been stored in the fat cell. So
that's actually true. They eat a lot of carrots that will turn
orange. It has to be a lot though. I mean, not for most of us. All right. So the fact that they're fat soluble also means that having a deficiency in one of these is relatively rare. Although, interestingly, there has been some conversation around vitamin D because of the push to use sunscreen and to be sun aware and sun safe. Vitamin D, we make vitamin D in our body through sunlight as well. So there has been some conversation about the fact that the increased use of sunscreen has led to a little bit more incidence of low vitamin D levels, but I haven't seen anything really conclusive on that. I would say we're the sunscreen people. Water soluble can be dissolved in water, right? It's exactly what it says. That means we can't store it, right? So we have to take it in on a regular basis. You can manage to go a day or so, you don't have to have vitamin K every single day because you're going to have some stored in your body anyway for your body to use. But you have to take in B vitamins and vitamin C every day. All right. It's difficult to reach toxicity for water-soluble vitamins because you just heat them out every day. All right. Be careful with your vitamin C supplements. The companies are very good at persuading you that more is better, and you can now buy you can get 1 gram and 2 gram size tablets of vitamin C. There's no way your body can use a gram of vitamin C at any one go. Right? Most of your money is going down the toilet, literally. So if you do buy the larger size vitamin C tablets, if you're going to take a vitamin C supplement, at least break it in half and take it in smaller doses. Right? Because otherwise it's really a complete waste of your money. Now we want to pay attention to vitamins with our athletes because with some of them, severe deficiency can lead to some quite severe consequences, and we can see some impact on performance or on their immune system. We don't want athletes getting sick all the time. So let's have a look at what we know in response to the immune system and to performance. All right, so vitamin C is the one that we most popularly hear connected with immunity. You know, if you've got a cold, take extra vitamin C. There's a lot of argument around whether or not vitamin C does help you not get a cold. There's less argument around the fact that if you've got a cold and you take it, you should pull through a little bit quicker. Right? So it's a little bit tricky, the vitamin C literature. But we know it's important to immune function. And the interesting thing with our athletes or our clients, if we're doing personal training, is the link between exercise and immune function. All right? So one of the reasons we want to pay attention to this information is because when we stress people, we see changes in immune function. All right? So if this is stress, and this is immune function, then what we see is low stress, and we're looking in particular at exercise. Remember, exercise is considered a stressor because the responses we see to exercise are stress. To some point, that's a good thing. Right? So if I'm low stress, we see low immune function. Moderate stress, high immune function. High stress, low immune function. Okay, so from an exercise point of view then, if I don't participate in exercise or physical activity very often, if I'm sedentary, then we tend to see low immune function in that population. They get sick quite often, right? If we look at really, really high-class elite athletes, particularly endurance athletes, then what we see is people who exercise a lot, twice a day, every day, don't take a rest day, right? Then what we see is low immune function. So quite often when you're working with athletes, you'll be working on a plan and you've got an end point, like this is where you want them to peak for that particular day, right, or that week. And what you find is that they work out too hard and they're really doing well, they're getting better, and then they get sick. Right before when you needed them to be at their best. Okay? Because when we work out very hard, very often, we impact immune function. Moderate, that's where we see the healthiest system. These people are the healthiest. Right? So it's a bit of a misunderstanding to say that the harder I train, the healthier I am. Right? That's only true up to a point. Right? So for example, when they test marathon runners, their immune function can be suppressed for 48 hours, you see big suppression. They have got some instances where they're still being quite weak immune function 10 days later after the end of the race. Right? So the thing about that is, if you run a marathon, you know, at the end of the marathon, there's all those crowds of people around. Get out of the crowd as quick as you can. Because at the end of the marathon is when you are most likely to catch a cold or some kind of infection from someone else that's hanging around. So, you know, either make sure that you're going to take some supplements and vitamins, or, you know, make sure you stay warm, get some food and some rest as quickly as you can, support your immune system as much as you can so that your chances of getting sick are a little bit less. See a lot of upper respiratory tract infections in long distance athletes, right? Because they do a lot of training. So, and some of those infections might be linked with a vitamin C deficiency. So what the research says, we know it's an antioxidant. There's detailed arguments about the kinds of byproducts that we make when we exercise. ROSs are break down tissues in the body, and so having lots of vitamin C might help you delay damage when you exercise. All right? Oxidative stress. It might help with fatigue and muscle injury. So, I mean, if I can recover quicker, then I can train again sooner or harder, and my training is more worthwhile. Okay. And there's some research that suggests it might help with delayed onset muscle soreness. That if you take vitamin C, you might see less DOMS if you up your training intensity. All right? There doesn't seem to be any connection. There's nothing that says if I take extra vitamin C, I'm going to be stronger, or I'm going to be faster, or I'm going to be able to run for longer. That's not where the benefit is. It's not in the actual performance. It seems to be more in the recovery kind of picture. All right? Let's see, vitamin E is also an antioxidant. The research is a little equivocal. There's some suggestion that we might store more vitamin E in the muscle if we take extra and we're training, and having more of it stored in the muscle because it's an antioxidant. We have the same thing as we do over here with the oxidative stress. If I've got more of the antioxidant available in the muscle, then when I exercise, perhaps I don't do so much damage because it combats the things that cause the damage. Right? But as I said, the research is not real clear on that right now. Again, that's the benefit, if there is one. Right? We don't see any benefit in actual performance. So the key here is don't take vitamins, don't take a vitamin supplement because it's going to make you better at what you do. It's going to make you stronger or it's going to make you faster. It's not. Right? Taking extra vitamins don't do that. It may help you with some muscle soreness, particularly if your diet is deficient in these, which it shouldn't be, right? If you are eating a well-balanced diet and you're following the ratios that we've talked about, and you're getting plenty of vegetables and fruits and proteins, then you shouldn't be deficient in any of these vitamins. Okay? B vitamins are an important one when we're looking at physical activity and exercise and sport because they work, there's lots of them. So you'll hear about B1s, B2s, B12s. There's a whole group of B vitamins. They work together as a group. And they play a big role in metabolism. So one of the things you'll find if you're low in B vitamin, if you're vitamin B deficient, then you fatigue quite quickly when you're training. Right? So B12 We need B12 to make red blood cells. Remember, we need red blood cells to carry hemoglobin, which picks up the oxygen. So if I am deficient in B12 and I'm an aerobic athlete, I'm likely to see an impact on my performance. It doesn't, right, taking, it's the same thing. The research says taking extra B vitamins over and above what you need, if your diet is not deficient, extra isn't going to help you. Right? There's no point in taking more than you need. So if you take a vitamin supplement and you think, oh, well, if I take 2, I'll do better today. No. Right? Stick with the dosage that it says on the bottle. So particularly with C's and B's, there's research to support that if you're deficient in them for some reason, taking a supplement would help your performance. But if you're not deficient, taking the supplement isn't going to make you better, right? So if your diet is adequate, there was quite a while back, there was a big push for taking mega doses of everything, right? Which is why these 1 gram vitamin C's became popular, because everybody was like, well, mega doses are great, more of something is always better than less of something. No, right? And they're not super expensive if you buy a non-brand version, but it's still money you guys don't have. Okay, so be careful where you're putting it. Vitamin B1, by the way, is connected to memory function. So if you're deficient in B vitamins, and in particular B1, then it would impact your academic performance as well as your sport performance. Keep those memories working well, right? Learning. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 nutrient groups. Our 5th nutrient group is minerals. And we have a lot of information looking at mineral deficiencies. And we do have a lot of sport drinks that incorporate minerals within their recipes. Sodium, potassium, chloride, right? All the things we're sweating out, they pour into these drinks. So let's look at the ones we've got lots of information on. Calcium deficiency can result in bone mass loss. So my bones can get lighter. They often get more brittle. That makes me much more prone to stress fractures. And if I don't correct the problem, then it could lead to osteopenia and osteoporosis later on, right? Particularly for the girls. Also, though, remember that calcium plays a major role in muscle contraction. So you don't want to be deficient in calcium, because in order to do your exercise, to do your sport, your muscles need calcium. So if you don't provide it through your diet, they'll leach it from the bones. And you might see some decrease in power production because you're low in calcium within your muscle cells. Right? So make sure, if you're lactate intolerant, then eat cheese or yogurt or soy milk with calcium added to it, or salmon is high in, tinned fish where it's got little bits of bones is a good source of calcium. Right? Make sure that you're getting it into the diet somewhere. 1% per year lost typically after the age of 40. So calcium's one you don't want to stop taking it as you get older. Tends to be a problem because we typically put on weight as we get older because we become less physically active. And we all buy into, well, if I'm putting on weight, I need to cut back my fat intake, and so we cut back dairy products. And then we cut back calcium and we don't put it somewhere else in the diet. All right, so just try to keep the big picture in mind if you're working with older athletes or clients. Iron, crucial, all right? And you can aid the absorption of iron by taking it with vitamin C. Iron, remember, sits in our red blood cells. It's also in other proteins that we use for building blocks and plays a massive role in our ability to move oxygen around the body and utilize oxygen to make ATP. So if I'm low in iron and there's not enough iron, the hemoglobin can't do its job at picking up the oxygen and transporting it. So we're going to try to make sure that we have a constant supply of iron. We do get some because we recycle red blood cells. They don't last very long, about 120 days. Right, it's about 4 months for a red blood cell, and then it's done its job and it gets broken down and the iron is reabsorbed. So we do recycle iron within our body, but we also have to make sure that we're taking it in as part of the diet. If you're anemic, right, so you've got an iron deficiency, then you will see quite severe drops in aerobic performance, not anaerobic performance. Right? If you're a sprinter and you're anemic, you're not going to have a problem because I don't need the oxygen. Right? It's anything where, but training will be a problem. So, if you're anemic, performance will improve if you take some iron supplements. You'll be a little bit careful with iron supplements because some people's digestive system doesn't do well with iron and then they get constipated. Alright? So, you might want to try to increase your dietary iron rather than take a supplement. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Where are we? We're good. All right. Competition meals. The research said that if we take some protein and a little bit of carbohydrate before we train, and then we take carbohydrate and protein after we train, that we see better resynthesis of glycogen and protein. Right? So we start to replace the stuff we used faster if we can get our pre and post snacks, meals lined up correctly. It's a very individual thing though, so the guidelines are quite vague because everybody's different and everybody's digestion is different and everybody absorbs carbohydrate at a different rate, all right? So there are quite clear guidelines, but just, you know, play around with them and so that you learn something that works for you personally. Okay? Before a competition, we can say before training, right? Then you're looking at a snack that should be reasonably low in fat and fibers. So this, your meal, right? When you're going to have your meal, for most people don't want to eat after 2 hours before the competition. Right? So if your competition is at 5 or warm-ups are at 5, then your last meal isn't going to be any later than 3. Okay? For some people, you might want to make it 3:30, 4. Depends how quickly you absorb that carbohydrate. You don't want to eat at 3 and then by 5:30, right at the end of warming up, you're starting to get a bit wobbly because your blood sugar's dropping off. Right? So it depends on the person. But most of the guidelines say your main meal would want to be 2 hours or so before you compete. Okay? Low in fat and fiber, because if you're stressed and you eat a lot of fiber and you're susceptible, you may be someone that gets GI distress and a lot of gas, and then you're uncomfortable, you might get some cramping. You don't want too much fat because you don't want it sitting in your stomach once you're ready to compete. Right? And fat takes a long time to absorb. So we want to make sure that the meal is relatively low in fat. So chicken and salad and some rice would be a good choice, or chicken and vegetables and rice would be a good choice of meal. Fish and vegetables and rice, right? Something that's relatively low in fat and isn't going to upset your stomach. Don't let your athletes try a new meal. Like, don't let them go to a restaurant they've never ate at before. Don't let them try a new protein bar that they've never eaten before, because you do not know how their digestive system is going to react to that. And right before a competition is not the time to be practicing and trying something new. Okay? So, if you typically take a shake or a protein bar or some kind of granola bar or something like that, make sure it's the same one you usually have. Right? You go to the shop and they ran out of what you have, don't try something else. Eat a banana or something instead. Right? Don't buy a different bar because you don't know what's in them. Your snack, right, before your competition, remember we're looking for some protein and a little bit of carbs just to top your blood sugar up for when you start competing. So a snack could be 5 to 10 minutes before you compete, but it's only small. Don't eat the whole banana, only eat half a banana. Right? After your competition, well, we want to get the carbohydrate back into the muscle and the liver as quickly as we can. Okay? So, if we want to be fussy about it, 0.4 grams of carb per kilogram every 15 minutes for 4 hours. Bit of a palaver, right? If you eat within 2 hours, you should be okay. If you can eat within 1 hour, it's even better. After 2 hours, we see much slower glycogen synthesis. So you definitely want to get that food in as quickly as you can. All right? Remember to snack. So if you know you're not going to be able to eat for 2 or 3 hours after the competition or after training, make sure that you've got a good quality snack with you that involves some protein. So peanut butter sandwich, perfect. Right? Pretzels and peanut butter, perfect. Cheese and apple, right? So make sure that you've got the snack so that you start recovering as quickly as possible. The tricky bit here is when you're working with athletes who have to compete more than once a day. Right? Because if you're a runner or a swimmer and you are in the top 3 in your round and you make it through to the next round, you've got who knows how long until the next round is going to be. So you can't have a meal, but you've got to have enough that your blood sugar and your carb stores are okay for the next round. Tennis players have a lot of problems because a tennis match, especially at the at Wimbledon or the US Open or the Australian Open, for the men that goes 5 sets. Well, that can be 6 hours. If you turn up for your match and the people who are playing the match before you don't finish, and you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs, you're like, well, do I eat? Do I not eat? Right? It can get quite tricky. Let's see. Protein as well as carbs. Right? We want to fix the damage that we did to the muscle as much as we want to replenish glycogen store within the muscle and the liver. If you've got more than 24 hours between events, so if you're playing a team sport perhaps where on Monday you play and you win your match and you might play Tuesday or you might play Wednesday morning, then we've got less of a problem in that situation because the glycogen stores will be replenished as long as you eat some carbohydrate that night. Most of your glycogen stores are going to be back in place for the next time you play. Right? So it's a little less tricky in that situation than it is when you're working where you don't know the next time you're going to compete or you've got to compete 3 or 4 times in one day. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so carbohydrate consumption after exercise. Right, so this is glycogen synthesis, putting the glycogen back into the muscle. So after exercise, up to 2 hours after exercise, this is what we see. Right? After 2 hours, we're pretty similar. So this person ate carbohydrate, this person doesn't eat carbohydrate. Right? If I eat after 2 hours, they're about the same. But if I can get that carb in early, so that might be a good time for a carbohydrate protein shake. Okay? You know how I feel about shakes, but some people when they finish a hard exercise bout can't stomach solid food. But the research says you've got to take in carbs and proteins as quickly as possible. So how do you do that? You're going to make your athlete eat a peanut butter sandwich and then they're going to go and throw up? That doesn't help, right? So that might be a good time to use a protein carbohydrate shake. Your pre-meal doesn't, you want to be not hungry when you start exercising, but you don't want to have undigested food in your stomach. So when you snack, keep the protein something that's easy to digest. Okay? Your 10-minute snack before you compete isn't red meat. Don't be eating the jerky. That's not the right choice. Okay? Some milk or half a yogurt, piece of cheese, some nuts. You could have if you're not going to have milk, right? You're going to have a couple of swigs of milk, right? Or half a yogurt, or half a banana with a bit of peanut butter on it, or something that's light just to keep your blood sugar level until you start work. Got it? Timing the food is tricky, guys. And there's a lot of information. Not all the books agree And it's so personal. Okay? You gotta look at the guidelines and start to keep very good notes for yourselves about what worked and what didn't work. Okay? So if I have a boiled egg and some Gatorade 15 minutes before I train, how did I feel when I'm training? Right? If that made me feel sick, then I've got to change my snack to something else. But if I don't keep track of what my snacks were and how they related to how I felt in training or in the competition, then it's difficult to start to get that organized.
What's the best pregame meal?
The meal or the snack?
The meal.
The meal, I would say, so if you play at, let's say you're going to play at 6, right? When would you start warming up?
At 4.
4. So you probably need to eat by 2 your main meal. So that meal, your meal, that would be chicken or fish. Spaghetti would be okay. I wouldn't.
With garlic bread and some salad.
You got to be careful with the fiber. Yeah, garlic bread and spaghetti, if it's white spaghetti, would be okay. I wouldn't do too much whole wheat stuff at that
They always feed us
meal
spaghetti.
before dinner.
They always feed us spaghetti.
They always feed you spaghetti.
Yeah.
Yeah, carbohydrate and protein. Not too much fat.
What
So
about like fried chicken? Like,
No.
No?
fried chicken would be bad.
No.
Way too high fat content.
Yeah, but these like some
Steroids. That's when they shoot you up. It's not going to help you very much if they shoot you up right before the game.
Experience stuff?
Not me personally.
Sorry.
My drug of choice is always wine. I never bother with anything else.
What's your pregame meal?
So yeah, I would say you've got to eat by 2. And then your snack, you probably would want a snack if you start warming up at 4, you want a snack around 3:30, and maybe have another snack at 5:30. But that snack is, I mean snack,
Yeah.
right? A couple of crackers and a couple of almonds. Nothing substantial.
Yeah, like
The point of the snacking is to maintain your blood glucose levels so that when you start to move, you've got immediate carbohydrate supply for system 2.
They have like bananas and like nutrient bars. Or,
Those little Gatorade chews are good too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those are really good.
I would be careful with the Nutri-Grain bars because they've got a lot of sugar in them.
What's the good ones?
Granola bars.
Yeah. Be careful with granola bars. That's an individual thing. If you are someone who's susceptible to sugar, right? If you absorb sugar very quickly and then you have a big shoot of insulin and you lose that sugar, you're going to bottom out and feel hungry within 10, 15 minutes.
So the candy wouldn't be good?
Candy's not a good choice right before the game, no.
I did.
Candy is an okay choice during the game,
Oh, that's
right?
Yeah.
Because during the game, you want a very quick source of simple sugar that will get into the bloodstream very quickly to maintain blood glucose, but not before the game.
Yeah, that's terrible. I felt like that.
If I didn't have a camera running, young man.
You got a what?
What?
Oh.
Did you ever watch the video from whenever you were gone?
No.
No, I don't.
Uh-oh. Is that going to make me sad? Or was it so brilliant it's going to embarrass me?
No, it was good.
All right, yes, not candy before the game, candy during the game. Before the game, you want something that was going to stop you feeling hungry
So
and
we
keep
get
your
with the-
blood sugar level.
I know.